Well, hello there, YouTube. It's again Grim Reaper 1312 better known as Nihilus. I'm back from garden work and a little distress with my girlfriend, my former girlfriend, I would have to say. Yeah, pretty much no time in the last few days, so no time to record either. But now I'm back, and I will provide you with a little upload spree. I think today will be 3 chapters, each of a fanfiction nicht cupcakes or not cupcakes for our German listeners only. Then we get at Sugarcube Corner, which I will read now, and Fallout Equestria. If you followed my live streams in the past few days, I got at Sugarcube Corner read already, so I knew how the story will go, and I can promise that it will be rather twist ending, you will see. The epilogues in especially are very creepy. I couldn't sleep well last night as I read them, so you will have fun. So let's begin with at Sugarcube Corner. Chapter 4. I didn't sleep well. I barely slept at all, actually. Neither did Verity. We didn't talk much after the incident in the washroom. We didn't really have anything left to say. The nightmares were bad, worse than usual. I woke up at the crack of dawn and got out of bed. I shuddered as I stepped back into the washroom. Though it was a fairly warm morning, I couldn't look at the bathtub. I just splashed some water on my face and went back to my desk. Rarity was still sleeping, fitfully, but at least she was getting some rest. I tip-hoofed past her, went downstairs. To my surprise, I found Spike collecting a small pile of books. He looked unusually somber. "Hey, Spike, what are all these?" "They're books on dreams and mental disorders," he answered a little hesitantly as he climbed the ladder to a higher shelf. "I woke up when Rarity slammed the washroom door open, so—" I felt a look of shame cross my features. I couldn't look him in the eye. "I'm sorry you had to hear that, Spike. I'm so sorry, I just—" "Stop, Twilight. I'm your #1 assistant, and you've literally been my friend all my life. I want to help, and I want you not to hide things from me," he said. He looked angry with me. I hadn't really ever seen Spike genuinely angry before. He must have been worried sick about me. I nodded slowly. "I'm sorry then. You're right. I should never left you out of the loop. I didn't want you to think less of me." I finally admitted the fact that a little dragon looked up to me so much was important. I didn't want him to look at me like I was crazy. He stared at me for a second, then let out a small huff of prismatic smoke. "It's not like anything's changed anyway, and you've always been a few hairs short of a full mane. That's why we're friends. I've always been the same one." I stared back before letting out a small giggle. "Thank you, Spike." "No problem," he said, back to his old self. "Now then, let's hit the books," I stated adamantly, stepping up to the desk. The first book in the pile Spike had laid out was entitled The Inner Workings of the Horn, a treatise on unicorn psychology. This is gonna be unpleasantly dry, isn't it? Spike looks over at the book on the desk and nods. "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, if that doesn't put you to sleep, you really do have a problem." I giggled again, suddenly more thankful for Spike's presence than ever. "Well, time to dive in." Spike and I spent the next 5 hours poring over massive tomes. Verity woke up soon after we started, only to chide us for not having eaten, and began cooking what she called a proper breakfast, which true form was no less perfect than anything else she did. We were interrupted around noon by a knock at the front door. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Fluttershy's soft tones came in with her as she stepped into the library. "Fluttershy, dear, come in." Rarity was the first to the door before I could even pull my head out of Psychology and Pathology, Volume 3. "How is Applejack?" "Oh, she's alright. She's alright as any pony might expect given the—" She stopped and looked sad for a moment before changing the subject. "I was just stopping to see how Twilight is." She trotted over and put a hoof to my forehead before putting the same hoof up in front of my eyes. "Follow my hoof with your eyes, Twilight." She moved it back and forth before nodding, apparently pleased with whatever she had gleaned from her inspection. Good, you're fine then. I was afraid your concussion might have been more serious, but... She gives me one of her angelic smiles. You're just fine. I'm so glad. Well, I wouldn't go that far, Rarity said, a concerned look on her face. Twilight? She asked. The question was obvious, so I nodded. Right, well, Twilight had another episode last night, Rarity said softly. I grimaced at a sudden drop in Fluttershy's futures. Oh no, what happened? I turned to face my friends. Well, I was in the bath when I started to smell things like cooking or baking the way her kitchen always used to smell. I stumbled over my words for a minute before continuing. It got stronger and stronger, till it felt like I was really there. Then I heard her voice. She was calling my name. Then the bathtub felt like it started to shake a little, and I could hear something. I stopped for a moment as they both gestured for me to continue. It sounded like hooves scraping against the tiles, like something was trying to crawl out from under the tub. Oh, well, what happened then? Fluttershy asked quietly. Then I came in. I heard her screaming from downstairs and rushed there as fast as my hooves could take me, Rarity answered. And did you? No, I didn't see anything. The tub was still and there wasn't anything beneath it. I looked down, unwilling to face them for a moment. I felt like a fowl who had been scared by her own shadow one too many times. Darling, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I looked up to see Rarity smiling kindly at me. She put a hoof on my shoulder and shook her head. I don't want you feeling weak. You have to be strong to fight this. Fluttershy nods. It is a hallucination. Maybe we can talk to Dr. Trotson at the clinic. Or maybe Luna can help. I think she's still at Sugarcube Corner. She might not be up to date on medical knowledge yet, but she's at least as powerful as Celestia. Fluttershy was right. And besides, Celestia might be more powerful in her own way, but Luna had purview over the night, and that included the dreams of ponies all over Encrestria. Wonderomancy was an obscure magical art that only Luna had ever mastered, but it was a close enough cousin to the differing schools of cerebromancy that she might have some insight her mentor didn't. Alright, I talked to Luna. As much as I didn't want this getting back to Celestia, I needed help. I knew that. And Luna would probably have more insight onto my condition anyway. We all went up to Sweet Apple Acres afterwards. I wanted to see Applejack before I talked to Luna. I knew that she had taken Rainbow Dash step harder than the most. They were the rivals and two sides of a coin. When we arrived, she was in the fields apple-bucking. I shook my head, marveling at her strength of mind. That hard-boiled, home-grown strength you only find in an earth pony was no more strongly represented than in Applejack. She spotted us coming down the hill to the grove she was working over. She looked like she might have been overdoing it, though. The groves she had just finished had whole slugs of bark gouged out from harder than necessary impacts. It was just her way of working things through in her mind, I supposed. Good afternoon, girls. Twa. How you doing? I heard you took a tumble. Sorry I didn't come around. Didn't hear about it till Fluttershy came by and filled me in. Don't worry, Applejack. I'm fine. Fluttershy and Dr. Trotson both say I'm fine. I answered honestly as I walked up and gave her a hug. As we parted, I saw the sad and distant look in her eyes. You better be, sugar. I'm not letting loose on someone else, she says, her face lined with worry. I know, that's why. I stopped for a second to gather my nerve. We need to talk. We all went into the farmhouse. Applejack sent Applebloom off to play in the treehouse with Sweetie Belle and Squidaloo while we talked. I told Applejack everything, all the problems within my head, the things I'd been seeing. I knew Fluttershy had filled in a few of the details, but Applejack deserved to hear the whole story from Pony's mouth. All through it, she didn't question me or look at me like I was a freak. She just sat and listened, nodding and occasionally interrupting to ask me to clarify something. But other than that, she just heard me out. I don't think I'll ever be able to express what it meant to me. At the end, she just nodded. I knew she would have a hard time of accepting that her friend might be losing her mind, but she took it rather well. Well, reckon we should go see about talking Princess Luna then, but you promise me, Twa, if Luna says she can't do nothing, we're going to see Celestia and no fighting, alright? Applejack says, I knew I wasn't going to be able to sway her. I didn't want to try either. She's already had to deal with losing Rainbow Dash. I wasn't going to argue with her. Alright, Applejack. If Luna really can't do anything, we take it to Celestia. I promise. Cross my heart. I gulped and the words died in my mouth. I gave myself a mental shake before trying to continue. I promise. Hope to fly. Toi? You alright? Applejack's words seem far off and hazy as I work my mouth. The blood is pounding in my ears as I try to ignore the sudden perverse mixed smell of formaldehyde and baking sweets. I'm fine. Stick a cupcake in my eye. Shut up! I screamed. The sudden shout caused every pony around me to jump back, except Rarity. She just stared. Big Macintosh peeked in the room at the noise. You okay, no? He asked, his voice the slow, calming drawl it had always been. Somehow the urban laziness of it brought me back around. A look from Applejack, and he nodded knowing and left. The haze was gone as quickly as it came. I blinked and stared. Applejack and Fluttershy both had mixed looks of worry and panic on their faces. But Rary just stared straight forward, her features even more pale than usual. I'm sorry, girls. It's getting worse. We should go, Selena, as soon as... I stopped at the look of my friend's face. Rarity? Are you... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you, I just... Twilight? She interrupted. Yes? Cross my heart? Hope to fly? She whispered. I think the look of horror that came over my face as those words must have been neatly mirrored on her. You didn't, Rarity. Tell me you didn't. You didn't hear her. She only stood there silently and shook, hooves making soft scraping sounds as they quaked on the hardwood floor. There were tears of abject terror in her eyes as she nodded. So, well, we have 2 crazy ponies now who can hear Pinkamena screaming into their ears. Nice. And the smell of sweets and formaldehyde doesn't make things better, I think. I will continue, I think, tomorrow with uploading the next part of Sugarcube Corner. Now I will read Fallout Equestria and then Nicht Cupcakes, or better known, Not Cupcakes, for our German audience. And I might as well, if I get enough requests, I would ask the author of Not Cupcakes to translate it into English so I can read it to you English folks too. So, see you around.